You just need that seed to be planted and have it given a little bit of water, and eventually you might come around to changing your life too.
Yeah. So they're really, there's entry points at all stages of your life
It's
and
very
for
true.
all activities, because for some people it might be photography.
Yes.
Maybe it's doing plein air art. It doesn't have to be hiking, bicycling. It could be disc golf. There's so many different things that you can do in the outdoors. But the reason we feel that it's so important is because all the research shows that spending time in the outdoors is better for your physical, mental, and emotional health. And I know
Absolutely.
for myself that some of those bumpy times in my life, being able to spend time in the outdoors is what kept me grounded and helped me through those difficult times.
Imagine a place where stress fades, fresh air fills your lungs, and adventure awaits around every corner. Welcome to Think Outside, the podcast that inspires you to explore, connect, and embrace the outdoors.
Hi, welcome to Think Outside with the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation. I'm your host, Marci Mowery, and with me today in this inaugural launch episode is Pam Metzger, also with the Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation. Pam, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Hi, everyone.
So we thought it would be great to start off talking a little bit about who PPFF is. That's what we call ourselves for shorthand. Why a podcast now, and a little bit about our own background in the outdoors. So the foundation is a nonprofit partner for your state parks and state forests. We've been around for 26 years, and we engage with volunteerism. There are 46 friends groups under our nonprofit umbrella. You can find them on our website. They are always looking for volunteers. So I'll get that out right in the beginning. There's a lot of opportunity to get involved in state parks and state forests as a volunteer. And one of those ways is with the Friends Group. And we also raise money for projects. We have a saying in PPFF that we work to ensure a place and an experience for everyone in the outdoors. So that's a big part of our mission. And we advocate on behalf of our parks and forests, bringing the voice of the people to the General Assembly for supportive investments in the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, weighing in on legislation that could benefit or have adverse impacts on parks, forests, and recreation, and just in general, keeping an eye out to make sure that these lands that belong to all of us are cared for future generations.
And I just wanted to throw in there that if you're interested in becoming one of those voices, all you need to do really is drop us an email, and I can add you to our database for activists. And whenever an issue comes up, we can send you an alert and say, please weigh in. There's also a link on our website to be a voice. I think if you search for Be a Voice, you'll find that, and you can just plug in what your address is, and it'll tell you who your state reps and state senators are, and you can send them an email right from our website anytime the spirit moves you.
It's easy peasy, as we like to say. And it also, if you're unsure of who your elected officials are, it also helps you identify who they are. So that's a really nice feature of it. So we've been communicating on a variety of platforms since inception. We have a printed newsletter. We're on LinkedIn, Meetup. We have some presence on Pinterest that's not real big, Instagram, Facebook, X. And Pam is the author of Take 5 Fridays with Pam. So Pam, why don't you take a minute and talk about that, and then we'll talk about why a podcast.
Take 5 Fridays with Pam's a weekly email that goes out to nearly 8,000 people. And it strives to be funny and fun
It
and
is funny and fun.
emphasize the things that you really enjoy about the outdoors. So there's pictures, there's news, there's a map of where all these places are that we talk about it. And there's the very popular online jigsaw puzzle. If I forget to turn one of those photos into a jigsaw puzzle, I hear from people. So we used to do a weekly trivia question, and it kind of filtered away, and the jigsaw puzzle has taken over the enthusiasm. So who knows, maybe trivia will come back, and it does come back every once in a while. There's a good question. So
Yeah, because there's so much to learn about parks, forests, conservation, recreation. A lot of information to share. which is one of the reasons that we are looking at a podcast as another method of communicating, because we all receive information in different ways, and cross-pollination, to think from a conservation perspective, cross-pollination is a good way to reach more people about the places they can visit, the things that they can do, the needs that exist. We often get questions like, well, when I get to a park, I'm not sure what to do. I've never been there before. So we're hoping to address questions that we receive from our members, our donors, the general public that reach out to us. We have a passport to Pennsylvania's parks and forests, and that's a great tool for finding the different parks and forests. And there's also themes, so that if you like, you have kids, where can you hike with your children? Or if you like to have quiet contemplation, what are good places for that? So we try to look at it from a thematic perspective, but there's always more information. Like last year, we looked at wild and natural areas, and we put together a comprehensive list by mining the DCNR website of the wild and natural areas that you can explore. And those are really special places.
And don't forget the YouTube channel.
Oh, goodness. How could I forget that? We've got a lot of information on our YouTube channel. We've done several very informative videos with thought leaders in their fields. We've done some really fun videos. We've got informational videos, real and virtual tours of places. And we will also refer back to those in the podcast. We'll put links in the resources section. So we just felt that a podcast was a new way to reach people, and a great way to share not just our knowledge base, but bringing in other thought leaders on topics that are near and dear to outdoor recreation enthusiasts, conservationists, and the general public.
Hopefully when questions come up, people will be in touch with us and we can turn that into another episode.
Or a fact sheet. Oftentimes we create fact sheets. We have a lot of fact sheets and infographics on our website because they were questions generated by people. And we thought, if one person has that question, chances are that other people share that question. So trying to get the information out into people's hands. So a little bit about ourselves. I'm the host of the podcast, Marci Mowery. I've been the president of the foundation since 2005. I actually met my predecessor at a banquet several years before this position became open. And I thought, I told him, I want your position, because I had at that point been to 87 of the state parks. I'd been to 17 of the 20 forest districts, and I was a user. I'm an outdoor enthusiast for many, many years, and I really felt it was time for me to give back. And this was an opportunity through this position to give back to the places that have brought me such joy, such calm, in some cases, have helped me through difficult times of my life, connected me with family and friends, and even connected me with my now husband. And Pam has been with us since not long after that.
14, maybe. I can't even remember, because Marci and I met each other in previous lifetime, her previous job, my previous job, and we became friends and connected that way. So that when she got this position with PPFF, she brought me in to do the database membership. So my title is membership coordinator, but there's a whole lot more to it than just riding herd on our members and our donors. So I can't even begin to describe all the many things that have trickled down to my life over the years. But Marci does like to make fun of me, because it was funny. We had reason to go through our newsletters over the last couple of days, and I went back through the website to look at those newsletters. And I look at the cover of the newsletter and say, wait a minute, that was 2010? That can't have been that long ago. It can't have been. But one of the issues we did was a kind of a look back at how our first exposure to the state parks. And Marci likes to make fun of the fact that the picture that I sent in is a picture of me in a little outfit with patent leather shoes, standing by the water in Ohiopyle State Park. And now, oddly enough, I live 11 miles from Ohiopyle State Park. So
yeah, it's a great picture.
What goes around does come around. I no longer have the little outfit or the patent leather shoes. Bearing in mind, I was probably 5 at the time. So, don't judge.
I would like for her to recreate the photo. My family, where I grew up on the river, on the Susquehanna River. I call it the river because in my mind it's the only river. But I grew up on the Susquehanna River and was what you would now call kind of a free range child. I loved my bicycle. I loved my big wheel. We would go out and explore in the woods around us. We'd go down on the river and paddle. But it was, the summer trips to the cabin in the mountains that really kind of shaped my passion for the outdoors, as well as being a Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout. And we would go to Cinnamahoney State Park every time we were at the cabin, and we would go looking for deer. Eventually, that evolved into elk. But it was a good experience and exposure at an early age. My grandfather was an avid outdoorsman. He was a hunter. He was an angler. He was a little league baseball coach. So he was a good role model. But it was really then in college, that I got more involved in the outdoors, the outing club at Penn State, and then, seeking outdoor opportunities. And I've sought them all over the world. I've been to 50 states, all 50 states, and have, looked at, I'm a high pointer, trying to do the high points in the states, and just have had such a positive experience with outdoor recreation. And Pam actually referenced when we had gotten together, we were planning, I was working with the National Audubon Society in Pennsylvania. Pam, you were with Rails to Trails at that point in time. We planned what we called the Women's Expedition for the Environment, which was a 3-week trip across Pennsylvania where we were hiking, backpacking, canoeing, and bicycling. And we went from Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania and all the way to Honey Hollow.
Wasn't it Rachel Carson? The Rachel Carson?
No, we started I thought at maybe it was. I would have to. We started in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
It was long. It was 1997? Almost 30 years ago.
Don't even go there.
And so it was such a defining an experience. And in fact, for some of the women who participated, it was life-changing. I think that just is a one example of what the outdoors means to us. And I think hiking is one of my favorite things. Walking, I grew up in a school district that didn't have busing, so I walked to school. I'd walk to go in town. I'd walk to my job when I got a job. So walking is very much a part of my life. I like bicycling, canoeing, kayaking, all of those things. Pam, your passion is really
cycling. Yeah, I really enjoy cycling an awful lot, which is one of the reasons why my husband and I live here in Confluence in Somerset County, is because the Great Allegheny Passage Rail Trail was just right over there. So we moved here because of that. And like Marci, kind of stalking her predecessor and saying, I want this job. My transition from my previous life as a legal secretary and paralegal was when I met the Pennsylvania director of Rails to Trails at a meeting one day. And I had come out here. My family lived in Somerset County at the time, and I came out here to ride the trail. And I think it was probably 90, 91, 92. Again, years don't matter. But I was cycling down the trail, and I said to myself, boy, I could really get into this. And then I said, I could really get into this. What was that guy's name? And when I got back to Harrisburg, I picked up the phone and called the RTC office and said, do you need help in any way? And he jumped on the chance. I started out as a part-time person and transitioned eventually out of that whole law firm thing and into the nonprofit world. So it was interesting what Marci said, about growing up and being in the outdoors. I mean, I think my route was very much different than that. I did not come from an outdoorsy family at all. We moved around a lot when I was a kid, and that, we would go to those places like Ohio Pile in the cars that my mom and dad just adored. They were car people. They were not outdoor people. But somehow the seed got planted so that later on in life, even after college as an adult, when I was working for one of those law firms, they did a fundraising bike ride. And I thought, wow, that sounds like an awful lot of fun. Bought a bicycle as an adult, and the rest is history. So you don't have to, and the Girl Scout troops that I all belonged to, none of them were outdoorsy Girl Scout troops. It was very strange. So you just need that seed to be planted and have it given a little bit of water, and eventually you might come around to changing your life too.
Yeah. So they're really, There's entry points at all stages of your life
It's
and
very true.
for all activities, because for some people it might be photography.
Yes.
Maybe it's doing plein air art. It doesn't have to be hiking, bicycling. It could be disc golf. There's so many different things that you can do in the outdoors. But the reason we feel that it's so important is because all the research shows that spending time in the outdoors is better for your physical, mental, and emotional health. And I know for myself that, some of those bumpy times in my life, being able to spend time in the outdoors is what kept me grounded and helped me through those difficult times and those transitionary, is that a word? Times. We're going to make up our own words as part of the podcast as well. Pam, do you have a favorite outdoor memory or adventure?
As I said, we were not a very outdoorsy family, but we did move around a lot. And I spent my junior and part of my senior year in Alaska. I actually graduated from West Anchorage High School. And because of my dad's job, it was, we were always told whenever we'd go somewhere that, this is it, you're going to be here now for a while. And so consequently, we wouldn't always explore the places where we were until we'd get the phone call saying, you're being transferred. And then we'd feel like we had to do everything at once. And so living in Anchorage, we were there a year and a half, which was unusual for us. We got the call. We never made it to Denali.
Oh.
But our weekend trips were always, we went to Portage Glacier, which was just south of Anchorage. You would just drive south and you'd get to Portage Glacier. Well, my mom got the brilliant idea one day that we should camp at Portage Glacier. So we bought a tent big enough for the five of us. We all had bicycles, so we took the bicycles and we loaded the tent and we drove to Portage Glacier on Memorial Day weekend, which
Oh, goodness.
in Pennsylvania, Memorial Day weekend means packed. In Alaska, not necessarily. We were the only ones in the campground, and we thought, well, this is pretty cool. So we set up our tent and Mom starts to build the fire and we all hop on our bikes and we're riding to the glacier and we ride to the glacier and this is great. We're having such a great time. We turn around and the reason we were having such a great time is because we had tailwind. Trying to get back to the campground, we had this wind. We got back to the campground. The temperature dropped. It was unbelievable. So we ate dinner, and when we got in this big tent, and there's all five of us sitting in the tent, and we're looking at each other. And my mom said to my dad, do you think the kids would mind if we just went home? And we all went, yes. Everything else. So, it's a favorite memory, but it's not the most successful camping trip in the history of camping.
But Pam, I think that some of the non-successful outdoor adventures, or when you had to dig deep. I think about on the women's expedition, the rainy night spent on the Mid-State Trail was one of my favorites. I mean, it was torrential downpour, and our friend Jackie and I were up, cooking for everybody else that stayed in their tents. But it was such a memorable experience, and that was one of my favorite nights. I think for me, one of my favorite adventures was myself, my now husband, and 4 other people did the Wabakimi Provincial Park in northern Ontario. You literally drive to the road ends in this little town, and then you jump on the Trans-Canadian Railroad, and you give them a mile marker, and they drop you off with all of your gear. And you have a satellite phone in case there's an emergency, and then you let them know where you think you're going to end, and they'll pick you up. So we were literally out for 9 days. We had 21 portages. One of them was a half a mile long, so there was a lot of in and out of the canoe. But during one portage, there were so many blueberries. We were just scooping up blueberries and stuffing them in our faces, and we gathered enough of them that I had a reflector oven that I made a blueberry tart for dinner that night. Because one of the things that I really enjoy is outdoor cooking, and so I had planned all the meals for the event.
Good at it.
So the thing that people joke about with that trip, though, is it was trying to get everybody to the spot so we could get on the train with herding cats, and we had some issues, so we were up all night. And then I had to tag all of our luggage so that when they threw us out with all of our dry bags, they would know that they had all of them. So we had 12 bags. So I wrote 1 of 12, and I had them all numbered. And When they went to throw them out, I had one of 12 on every single one of the bags. So the luggage it's still on the bag. A couple of the bags still have the tags. This is a reminder. No, it should have been one of 12, two of 12, three of 12. So we just made sure we had 12 bags. And literally we paddled out in this. We saw maybe 5 other people the entire time. Occasionally a float plane would come in and it would dip its wing to make sure that we were okay. We caught our meals some nights. We were catching fish. Walleye was the big one. And then in the end, when we were ready, we sent in our coordinates and a float plane came in and landed, strapped our boats to the pontoons, and we took off. And it was I think a 54 de Havilland, So it was just such a cool and memorable experience. But that being out there in the wilderness, we didn't hear a wolf. We didn't see a caribou. We didn't see any of the things. He's like, everybody sees it. I'm like, we didn't see them. But you're talking about a headwind. We went out on the lake one day and we fashioned a sail, and we were sailing across the lake and we were having such fun. And all of a sudden I'm like, we got to get back to where we started. It literally took all the wind out of the sail. We're like, oh no, we pulled the sail down and we ended up working our way back along the shoreline. And it took quite a while because we were now paddling into a headwind.
Working up an appetite for that blueberry tart.
Yes. So it was quite an adventure, but I've had just as good of an adventure, camping in a park or stopping. I would love to stop at SB Elliott when I'm traveling Route 80 and stretch my legs and just enjoy being there and being in the history that's there in the woods, stretching my legs, having a little picnic lunch, and breaking up my travel. So little adventures, big adventures. That's the things we're going to explore in the podcast.
Gotta think outside.
We're gonna think outside with Pennsylvania's Parks and Forest Foundation. Quick plug. This is airing on the 21st of April. If you're in Harrisburg before the end of April, the photo contest winners from our annual photo contest are hanging in the East Wing Rotunda. So I know that this will be continuous. It'll be out there for a very long time, but we do run an annual photo contest, and it's a great way to explore Pennsylvania's parks and forests. So we hope that you'll join us. There'll be ways that you can connect with us. The podcast will be on all different platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And, we've got a host of ideas, but if you have an idea of somebody you feel would be good for us to interview, or a place you'd like to learn more about, or an idea or concept that you'd like to explore, let us know, because this is for you. Thank you, listener, and we hope to connect with you more over the course of the next several years.
100 years.
100 years. That would be a very long time. All right. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to Think Outside, where every episode invites you to discover new places, build confidence, and find inspiration in nature. Love the show? Subscribe for more inspiration, share with a fellow explorer, and let's keep thinking outside together. For more resources and inspiration, visit thinkoutsidepodcast.org.